going.
I just would like to have another clean sheet. Exactly right. Oh, my goodness.
Time to go viral. Murray State point guard Ja Morant, widely believed to be the second best player available in tonight's NBA draft behind Zion. But there are some folks who still have questions about his game. Take a listen.
Yes, I really like the negative energy. He haven't played against nobody. He's too small. He can't shoot. I love negative energy motivates me, and it really doesn't bother me because my dad was my first hater. So if I can take it from him, I can take it from anybody.
His dad's been with him every step of the way, and has the motivation. His motivating strategy is, man, you stink. You can't do it. Get on him like that.
It's awesome. They got some great videos. His dad has coached him up, trained him up. He has a lot of unusual drills he worked on as a young basketball player to get that leaping ability where he is. But it reminds me of Tiger Woods and what his dad used to tell Tiger. He used to yell in his backswing. He used to do all types of stuff to Tiger to make him concentrate. So Tiger did the same thing like Ja.
Or remember Kevin Durant when he won his MVP, talking about his mom waking him up in the middle of the night, saying time to do push-ups, time to run hills, all those things, which when you turn into one of these players, it's a great story. If you end up working a regular job, you're like, man, my mom used to wake me up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's
make me do push-ups. It's it's a very different
line.
But when you go from Murray State to the #2 pick of the draft, it's a great story. Can't wait for
going after the hater.
Time for stories to start your morning. The NBA draft tonight, and as we know, Zion Williamson expected to go #1 overall to the Pelicans after an incredible freshman campaign at Duke. Zion is the most hyped prospect since LeBron James. So, CC, will he live up to the hype?
I believe that he will. I believe the supporting cast that he had, the trade in Anthony Davis, gave him some legitimate NBA players. Drew Holiday is a great two-way guard, also a great leader on and off the court there in New Orleans. But the coach and the general manager, that right there that will make sure that he reaches his full potential. I do believe it, Nick.
I believe it as well. And speaking of the coach and GM, keep an eye on just maybe if they're still shopping that #4 pick. I wonder if David Griffin, for a team that needs spacing and shooting now, might call up his old team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and see if they'd be interested in getting off Kevin Love. He can be a stretch 5, space the court.
Yeah, I was trying to do the LeVar Ball thing. I was wishing Zion went to New York, but I knew he was going to end up in New Orleans because I knew him and Lonzo was going to be together on the fast break. I knew it. See, I'm playing chess. They playing chess.
Exactly right. That fast break's going to be dope.
With reports that Memphis will draft Ja Morant #2 tonight, the Grizzlies have shipped point guard Mike Conley to Utah in exchange for Kyle Korver, Jay Crowder, Grayson Allen in the #23 pick tonight, plus a future first-rounder. So, Nick, are the Jazz now a title contender after acquiring Conley?
No, not yet. I can't put them there yet. To me, they are a contender for the Western Conference Finals. That is the level I will put them at. To me, this catches them up potentially with a team such as Denver, a team that I also look as a true title contender right now. But they needed an upgrade at the Ricky Rubio spot to help out Donovan Mitchell, who was a good volume scorer but not as efficient. And so I like this move for them, and for Memphis, it clears the way for Ja.
And I believe he's better on the defensive end as you lead everyone into the one-man blocking machine in Rudy Gobert in the paint. Donovan Mitchell gets a lot of help. I don't see them as a title contender, but next year, could they be Portland, where they made it to the Western Conference Finals? Yes, they got a lot better. I believe the fans in Utah are really going to enjoy Mike Conley, former Buckeye.
And by the way, I would guess Kyle Korver is not going to play for Memphis this year, more likely to play for the Lakers.
Yeah, him, J.R. Smith, the old crew. Everyone but Richard Jefferson. He can't come back. I saw him this offseason, man. He ain't doing nothing but eating and drinking.
That's the truth. Staying in the NBA, Bucks forward Chris Middleton will officially be a free agent after declining his $13 million option. Middleton is expected to demand a max contract. Nick, do you think he ends up, though, back with the Bucks?
I think he should. I think he will. The Bucks won 60 games. They were up 2-0 on the eventual champs. I think they could have, if they would have made the NBA Finals, beaten the Golden State Warriors. You got to run that back. You're not going to be able to bring back everyone, but Chris Middleton, Malcolm Brogdon, one unrestricted, one restricted. I think you've got to bring both those guys back. I understand it gets expensive. Now you're talking about paying the tax because you've got Giannis making so much money. You deal with that, though, with the ability to compete for a championship immediately. If they bring everyone back, to me, they are the clear-cut favorites out east. if Kawhi leaves Toronto.
Yeah, especially. And that's what happened to Middleton. What happened to him in the playoff? Kawhi.
Yeah.
What happened to him in the playoff? Kawhi. But he did. He had his best season, especially during the regular season, all-star this year. And what's best for his career is right next to Giannis. I wouldn't want to play another basketball game without Giannis being on my side. They have something special there in Milwaukee. They got just close enough. Man, don't give it. Don't go somewhere else and try to rebuild that. But Brogdon's important and Middleton's important as far as them. They are the favorite in the East.
Finally, let's talk about the Celtics, who are in a state of flux after a disappointing season and an early playoff exit. Chemistry issues and locker room strife seem to hamper Boston throughout the year, and that can reportedly be traced back to Gordon Hayward. Reports are saying that Brad Stevens force-feeding his former Butler star, who was coming off of that serious leg injury, bothered many of the Celtics players. So, Nick, who is most to blame for the Celtics situation?
I don't want to not answer your question, but can I defer on that just for a moment? Because this is something you talked about during the year, that when you have that, and this is where the experience of having been in the locker room is so valuable. So I want to defer to you on this before we get into the blame part of it, which is guys know who's winning in practice. Guys know who the best players on the team are. And if a coach, even if his intentions are good, which I don't think it was because Brad Stevens has known Gordon Hayward since he was 17. I think it was, this guy's important. He's our highest paid guy. He's coming off an injury. For us to reach our potential, we need to get him back to full confidence. We're going to force feed him. But guys, you talked about during the year, guys in the locker room aren't hearing that, thinking that, seeing that. They're just saying, I'm busting his head in practice. You're calling plays for him, and that can cause strife throughout a season.
And a lot of times the coaching staff, they become a double standard. Because you see, a lot of the players, man, they're smart. They realize if I go to Boston, Gordon Hayward's there. Man, Brad Stevens recruited this kid over 10 years ago. He was a 3-star recruit, went to Butler. Every game he started, Brad Stevens was the head coach there, 69 games. Man, they got a lot of intel and everything. Gordon could have went a lot of different places. Man, Cleveland.
Yeah. He was signed up to go to Cleveland free agency before, and then LeBron came in and took the spot for him. Yep.
Right. So now he ends up with the guy who recruited him. And if I'm in that locker room, you start hearing things like, oh, man, he's getting a special treatment. Oh, man. And when they criticize him, when you watch the film together, or the coaches criticize him with the same intensity which they criticize the other players on the roster. And it eats away. Sarah, you know this. You start to be like, man, they're treating him a lot better than they're treating me. And like, wow, if I had an injury like that, would they be as patient? Would I be a starter? Would I be getting those minutes? And the truth of the answer is no, you wouldn't. And as coaches, it's hard to remove the past experiences you have with people. And if you're not going to give up on a guy that you have history with, you're not going to give up on a player you have history with, and the guys see through it. So I'm not surprised at all that this was going on in Boston with some of the other things they had going on in the locker room, because there were points this year in the season where Gordon Hayward looked almost unplayable. I mean, he's just a shell of himself athletically. Now, at the end of the season, he did look a lot better. But with the players who are trying to get paid and trying to win a championship, Gordon Hayward's inability to be himself was getting in the way of both of those things.
Well, but that's where I struggle with this, because you could see the side of the players, those in the locker room, that feel like, to your point, I've been busting this guy in practice. I should be getting this playing time. I should be getting those touches, those looks. However, so much of what the NBA is now is preparing for the postseason. And this was a team that was expecting to compete for the Eastern Conference title, to get to the finals. And so we saw flashes towards the latter part of the season. And Gordon Hayward, I mean, that injury, he was an all-star coming here. He was what him and Kyrie Irving were expected to come and change the complexion of what the Celtics were doing. So that's where I think, at what point do you need to continue to give this guy opportunities when maybe he's not at his best, to get him ready for the latter part of the season?
You understand why they would do it, but this is where, in any business environment, any team environment, the worst thing you can have is misaligned incentives. And so you had Kyrie Irving saying, I'm just worried about the playoffs. You had the coaching staff trying to get Gordon Hayward ready for the playoffs. Man, you have Jaylen Brown trying to get paid. You have Jaylen Brown trying to prove himself. Jason Tatum trying to take that next step after working out with Kobe. You have Terry Rozier, who had a star turn in the playoffs. Scary Terry. People are wearing masks, T-shirts, the whole nine. He knows he's a restricted free agent coming. So you had guys that weren't all on the exact same page. So that gets back to your original question. I apologize for not answering initially, which is who's to blame. And the answer is everybody. Kyrie, yes, if Kyrie just does what they thought he was going to do, which is be a Celtic for multiple contracts, then they trade for Anthony Davis, they did a lot of other things. Brad Stevens not getting the most out of talent, but also the front office, Danny Ainge and company, for not seeing, just like I thought it was indefensible that the Warriors would say, we never saw an Achilles coming. When you saw it coming the day after the injury and the day after the calf strain and the day of the Achilles injury, how can the Celtics front office not have seen coming what some of us on TV did before the year, which was, hold on now. It's not as simple as we add 2 All-Stars and we get that production. There's the human element. There's only so many minutes in a game and so many touches, so many shots. Why did they not see this potential landmine and avoid it?
A lot of times we see injuries. We think all injuries are the same. And no compound fracture, no dislocation, no ACL being torn, no Achilles. None of these things are the same. But as we view sports and stuff, we just think so. Adrian Peterson told us that when he shattered his knee. And he was back playing in 6 months. No one can do that. And I'm going to tell you who you can blame for this. And it's a blame. It's not his fault. But Paul George. It's Paul George's fault. He had an unbelievable, gruesome injury. Exactly what Gordon Hayward had, but it's not the same thing because they're not the same player. They're not the same athlete. They don't have the same mentality. Paul George being MVP candidate almost 3/4 of the season, back to what the level that we saw him and even better. People saw Gordon Hayward, oh, he'll come back because we saw Paul George do it. But it's not the same. No 2 injuries are the same.
Speaking of Kevin Durant, his injury.